Would you like to see the alignments and the aspects we're talking about this week? Well, check out the weekly overview on the funastrology.com YouTube channel. A picture really is worth 1,000 words. Well, welcome to September 16th. Thomas Miller here in the middle of the month, and we've got quite a week ahead. I did the weekly video, and I released it on Saturday because I wanted to give everybody a little extra shot at it. So if you'd like to see all of this, it's on the YouTube channel, Fun Astrology Podcast. Before we get going, let's check in with Kristin for Lucky Stars to get the context of, is this going to be a lucky week?
Hi, Thomas and Fun Astrology Podcast listeners. Happy Monday. This week definitely has some challenging and cautionary energy. However, I do want to put on everyone's radar that there is a yod to Venus on Friday and Saturday. So if anybody has late degrees of Libra, they're 27, 28, or 29 degrees, this could be a really lucky day for you. To find out more lucky days or to learn more about luck and astrology, join the Lucky Stars Club. Thomas and I can't wait to see you there. I hope you all have a great week.
Thanks, Kristin. You too. And I'm glad you mentioned that late degrees on Friday. Yeah, that big yod with Venus. We'll get there. We got a lot of ground to cover before then here. But one of the things I think we should note is a lot of the action this week is in the later degrees. And again, I would really encourage you to marry this audio podcast with the video because looking at this in the chart is going to make a big difference. And even tomorrow's eclipse is at 2541, almost 26. So everything this week is kind of tilted to the end of the signs. And there's a little subtlety in Hellenistic astrology, in the ancient astrology. It's called terms, or sometimes bounds, B-O-U-N-D-S, or back then, hories, H-O-R-I-E-S, which is awfully close to horary, and it is sometimes used in horary astrology as well. But it's basically subdivisions of the signs. So right now it's Virgo season. Well, Virgo can be subdivided along these things called decanates and then dwads and then terms and bounds. It gets complicated, but just think it's a subdivision of the signs. And in the old Egyptian subdivision, there was this little clue that all of the signs ended with one of the, what Hellenistic astrologers considered malefic planets, either Mars or Saturn. Every one of them, every one of the signs for the last couple of degrees was a malefic. And if those of you who have later degree placements, you're going, now I get it. And that's one of the things to keep in mind for this week, because there's a lot of action in the later degrees, and a Hellenistic astrologer would not have hesitated to sit down with this week and say, watch out. Now, an evolutionary astrologer, take Steve Forrest, would not even have a consideration of that. He would say everything in the chart is for our journey. So, as we balance the daily and weekly energies like we do here, I think we have a drumbeat of challenge this week, and I'll tell you why. Of the major aspects this week, 3 are oppositions, 2 are squares, and 2 are trines. Squares and oppositions meaning the tense aspects, trine being the most favorable of the favorable, and there are 2 sides of every coin, right? But just 5-2 basically is the score of challenge to positive aspects this week. Another thematic thing I put together is to kind of do a dispositor count on the week as far as who's on the court this week. The sun, you and me. See, this is where I'm bringing this home to us. The sun is involved in 5 of all of the things going on this week. I counted everything, aspects, sign changes, etc. The sun is there 5 times. Venus, the love planet, is there 2 times. And then it goes down from there. Mercury, 2, communication with ourself. Pluto, 2, transformation. And then Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter and Uranus have 1. I didn't count the moon because obviously it's all over the place. So today's aspect is at 5:29, 5:30 this evening Eastern Time, and that is Venus, speaking of, at home, happy, in Libra, but is in one of those oppositions that we talked about to Chiron, the wounded healer. I went back and reread the Chiron story from mythology and found something that I like. Let's try this on for Chiron. Maybe you've heard this, maybe you haven't. Chiron in the story obviously was a centaur, so that's half horse, half man. And the centaurs in mythology were a rowdy, raucous, rebellious bunch of kids. They were that bunch, but not Chiron. Chiron was well-studied, well-behaved, knew medicine, plant medicine, herbs, was a philosopher, a teacher, and a healer. Quite unlike the other renegade centaurs that even had to be put off to themselves because they were so nutso. So Chiron stood out in the crowd. Now, just skipping through the story really fast, I want to get to the end because that's what I picked up on. He was wounded in his foot. He couldn't heal the wound. He withdrew, so there's part of it, and then was offered this chance to trade his immortality, he was immortal, for mortality, and as a result of that trade was given a place in the constellations of the sky. And that's what I wanted to focus on. The cookbook Astrology of Chiron is to focus on our wound. We're working through our wound. And boy, I get it. I know exactly what mine are, why they are there. They are shown by the chart. If you look in your chart at where Chiron is in your natal birth chart and what it aspects, the sign and the house give you the characteristics of your wound. And then this is one of the times that I use two house systems. In whole sign, it shows one thing. In equal and placidus, it shows another. It moves houses from the 8th to the 9th. And both of those fit my own personal situation. So there's something you might want to do there is look at the three house systems and see where Chiron places in all of them. But here's the deal. Chiron gave up his immortality. He surrendered his, let's say, selfness. I know, that's not a word, but get what I'm saying. If you had immortality and you gave it up, what kind of a surrender of yourself is that? It's almost like everything. Well, with Chiron, he gave up some of himself and gained a place in the sky. Ooh, how does that fit on when we start thinking about our deepest wounds? Our karmic soul wounds. If we give up some of ourselves, and especially with Venus in Libra, which is all about balance and harmony and love, could we change that wound to a place in the sky with our light shining for the ages in that area of our life? You see where I'm going with this? I think it's absolutely profound. Think about it. Just let it incubate and meditate and simmer. That you give up something very valuable. In other words, you're willing to surrender and empty yourself. In the areas that are represented in the chart of the wound, let it go. And the process ultimately was that Chiron was given a place in immortality in the sky. He didn't get it back physically. He got it back positionally. I'm telling you, this gives me chills. Now, tomorrow be getting your throat conditioned because we have to howl together tomorrow morning, as you know, and it is a full moon and a lunar eclipse, and Jenny Geyer is going to join us to talk about it. See you back tomorrow. Have a great Monday. Be thinking about, I'm just like in love with this interpretation of Chiron. Be thinking about it. Would love to know your thoughts. Have a great day. See you back tomorrow. I think it'll work.